Will this end again? The race firepower can decide the battlefield in Ukraine. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. If neither side can gain an advantage on the battlefield, the fight in Ukraine will devolve into a contest of firepower, with the winner being the one that possesses the greater quantity of artillery shells. Officials from the Pentagon have stated that in order for Russia to compete in this firepower battle, they have been forced to employ some ammunition that is older than 40 years. Additionally, there is a major scarcity of chips that are required for precision-guided missiles. It is currently subject to a number of sanctions imposed by Western nations. In the meanwhile, the Ukraine is dependent on the United States and other NATO allies to maintain supplies of weaponry and ammunition. However, after 10 months of conflict, this stockpile is progressively becoming depleted. The military situation in eastern and southern Ukraine is currently at a standstill, with soldiers from both sides primarily hiding in deep trenches. This situation has resulted in a stalemate on the battlefield. Both sides' forward progress in their attacks was hampered by the severe weather that winter brought. In this context, in order to maintain their superiority on the battlefield, the armies of both sides fire thousands of artillery shells every day, despite facing many challenges in their efforts to secure logistical supplies. This is because maintaining their advantage on the battlefield is essential to maintaining their ability to win the war. Two officials from the United States have stated that it has been about 300 days since the fight began, and Russian forces have reportedly exhausted their stockpile of bombs, which took them more than a decade to construct. It is unclear how many shells and other types of ammunition Russia still has in its stockpile, as well as how rapidly the Russian defense industry can make more of both types of ammunition. The highest-ranking officials in the United States intelligence community have stated on multiple occasions that the Russian armed forces are consuming ammunition at a quicker rate than they are producing it, but they have not provided specific estimates on the country's artillery supply. Western military analysts predict that if Russia does not make improvements to its weapon production lines over the next few months or the next year, the country will likely run out of ammo. According to Dara Massaquot, a senior policy analyst at the Rand Corp think tank located in California, the Russian defense industrial base has been under a lot of pressure from sanctions, but it's still intact. America, he referred to. At the moment, Russia is using all of its possible effort to encourage the defense sector to create even more. According to Paul Schwartz, a researcher on the Russian military at the Center for Naval Analysis in Virginia, USA, which is located in the United States, Russian defense manufacturers are increasing the number of production shifts and mobilizing private firms to join the endeavor. However, he pointed out that it will be challenging for Russia to produce sufficient ammunition in order to keep up with sales on the battlefield. A month ago, authorities from the United States Department of Defense stated that Russia was burning 20,000 shells a day, while the figure for Ukraine was between 4,000 to 7,000 rounds. Schwartz predicted that it would be a significant challenge for Russia to overcome. Because of the backing it receives from NATO, the Ukraine enjoys an advantage in this sphere. According to Schwartz, artillery shells do not require the complex electronics that are embargoed by the West. On the other hand, Russia's machinery industry has been in decline over the years, and it is unclear whether accelerating production will require higher quality machinery that is more efficient than importing from abroad. Experts in the field of military strategy believe that guaranteeing sufficient explosives for the increased number of shells that are going to be produced could also be a bottleneck for Russia's ambitious plan. According to Massaquot, who works for the consulting firm Rand Corp, it's a race to keep resources. How much longer will the West keep supporting Ukraine at its current level? Concerning Russia, how fully operational is the country's defense industrial base actually today? As a result of years of sabotage operations related to the conflict in the east with the separatists, Kyiv was in a rather precarious position in terms of its access to ammunition when Russia launched its military operation in Ukraine on February 24. The conflict had been going on for several months. According to a study conducted by the Institute of Royal United Services of Britain, the Ukrainian military experienced 6 explosions in the arsenal between the years of 2014 and 2018, which resulted in the loss of more than 210 tons of ammunition. This loss included 152mm shells, which play an important role on the battlefield, RUSI. According to Nick Reynolds, an analyst at RUSI who specializes in land warfare, it is a serious impediment to Ukraine's combat capabilities. However, Russian attacks on Ukraine's power system and other infrastructure have greatly limited the country's ability to create industrial goods. Ukraine is still capable of producing ammo for grenades from the Soviet era. According to experts, Kyiv is now required to source all of its ammunition appropriate for modern NATO artillery pieces from foreign partners, and the country's Eastern European neighbors have had to sift through stockpiles in order to find it. Ukraine has been given munitions that date back to the time of the Soviet Union. In order to keep supplies of weapons and ammunition flowing to Ukraine, some of NATO's stockpiles have been depleted, which has led Western defense industries to advocate for a significant increase in the amount of ammunition that is produced. However, leaders in the defense sector argue that it will take some time before production can pick up to the rate necessary for a conflict, even for conventional weapons. Last month, U.S. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth stated that the U.S. defense industry plans to raise production of 155mm artillery shells from the current rate of 14,000 per month to 20,000 by the spring and 40,000 by the year 2025. The White House revealed the new military assistance price of $275 million for Ukraine last week. This amount includes the cost of munitions. More than 1 million shells have been shipped to Kyiv by the United States thus far. A $37.7 billion aid measure for Ukraine has been offered by the administration of President Joe Biden, and they are hoping that it will be approved by Congress in the relatively near future. Officials from militaries in the West have stated that the aid package, together with assistance from Europe, will be sufficient to cover Ukraine's requirements for the next 6 to 9 months. Additionally, Ukraine continues to petition its partners to supply it with more sophisticated and potent military hardware, like its long-range attack missiles, F-16 planes, and Abrams tanks. The authorities from the United States stated that they would not completely rule out the possibility of sending them to Ukraine if they came to the conclusion that Kyiv actually required those weapons for the ongoing battle. According to Michael Kotkin, a specialist on Russia who works at the Center for Naval Analyses in Washington, the situation is only going to get worse for Russia as the conflict carries on if the current artillery-based tactics are used. The Ukraine has the potential to win the race in terms of firepower, but it will also have to overcome a number of obstacles. According to Kotkin, the current consumption rate of artillery rounds in Ukraine is significantly surpassing the production capability of the West. To continue to have an advantage over Russia, the West will need to quickly ramp up production, while Ukraine will also need to adjust the way that it uses its ammunition, the authors write. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.